Dear friends, my name is Julia. On behalf of Cambridge Assessment English, I would like to welcome you to our Advanced Friday. If you can hear me well, please put a plus in the chat box. Great, I can see so many pluses. Welcome everybody. So before we start, I have some tips for webinar attendees. Please use Google Chrome. If you cannot hear or cannot see video from presenter or cannot see the slides, please refresh the webinar page or reconnect to your internet connection. Or type @support into the chat box and a member of the support team will help you. Please be an active participant, provide feedback and ask questions. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box. The recording of the webinar will be available soon. We will share it with you next week. You will also receive your certificates of attendance. Our webinar today is devoted to preparation for C1 Advanced. Our presenters from different countries are going to talk about different aspects of preparation. Some C1 Advanced pitfalls, psychological aspects of self-preparation, and of course, some resources and materials. It's 3 p.m. in Moscow, and I'm happy to welcome our first presenter, Claire Barnes. Claire, please go on air. Hi.
Okay, I am here. Thank you. Was that
Great.
my introduction?
Can you see your presentation? Do you have the control panel?
Yes.
Is everything okay? Yes? Okay.
How about? Ah. Right. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome, as they say, from a very sunny afternoon here in Germany, not far from Berlin. I keep getting messages saying that I have an unstable connection. If it gets really bad, I will switch the camera off. Okay, so first of all, who am I? I'm Claire. Hi. Until very, very recently, I was in Moscow. I've been living in Moscow for 13 years now. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher trainer, and I do a lot of workshops, webinars, seminars, whatever, for Cambridge Assessment in Moscow, or in Russia, shall we say. Okay, so this afternoon, okay, we're aiming to possibly highlight some potential pitfalls and maybe suggest 1 or 2 activities. And I aim to keep this very, very interactive. So I'm going to keep asking you questions, and I'm going to keep expecting you to respond in the chat box. All right? Please remember, you have a Q&A, a question box for, I'm going to turn my camera off. You have a question box asking content questions and for asking any questions about administration. Okay, so let's try and keep the chat box only for the interaction during the session. All right, any content questions, please use the question box, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Promise. Right. Okay. Let me practice moving the slides along. There we go. So, a couple of questions to start with. In the chat box, please. Are you a teacher or are you preparing to take C1 Advanced yourself? Oh, okay. I've got both keep coming up here. Teachers. The ones who are saying both, I think that's an excellent plan, because one of the best ways that we have of doing any kind of professional development is actually taking these exams ourselves, simply so that we have the experience, and also because remember that Cambridge Assessment English exams are developmental, so it's the way to improve our English, isn't it, really? Okay. Next question. Okay. What difficulties have you encountered when working either alone or with students? What are the problems? Ooh. Okay. Wow. All sorts of things coming in the chat box there. Basically, yeah, everyone's saying writing, speaking. Seriously, guys? Okay, can we be a little more specific here? It's a bit too complicated. Surely not. They don't want to study grammar rules. Someone can't pluck up the courage. Seriously, if you can type, pluck up the courage, you can do the exam. Motivation among the students, that's a good point. So if you're teaching students, are you teaching teenagers or university students or real people? Sounds a little odd, I admit. Teens, no, okay. I can well imagine that teenagers and even university students sometimes suffer from a bit of a lack of motivation. I taught C1 Advanced last year myself to a group of teenagers. There were 6 of them, and sometimes it is a bit tough to keep them motivated. We got there in the end. We got there. Okay, right. Let's continue here. Okay, I'm going to start by looking at 1 or 2 of the sections of the word formation. Okay, in the chat box. Okay, you know what it is. She looked at her sons with maternal, something to do with proud. The word formation. Anybody in there? Yep, absolutely. His finger began. Good. What about someone saying proudly, with maternal proudly? Seriously? Okay, what about the last one, number 3? The team talked about their footballing victory. Absolutely. Yeah, I can see lots of people coming up with the right answer there. Very good. Okay. And you can see them on the screen right now. Okay. So, yeah, what have we done there? Exactly. So we've got the original word, proud, blood, long, and what exactly have we done? Have we added something? Have we taken away something? Have we changed the type of word or the class of word? Oh, there's a big word there, Ivan. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We've changed it from the one class of word to the other class, to another class. Exactly. Okay. What about this one? The view from the top of the mountain was absolutely. We should appoint a for the next meeting. And Paul's been watching a lot of the television. Yeah. Anyone try writing chairman? Can you please go take yourself out and put yourself against that wall and shoot yourselves? Seriously, guys. Thank you, Maria. Chairperson, absolutely. Big block capital letters there from somebody. Very good. Okay. And what about the TV? Not daily. but daytime, absolutely, daytime TV. So what have we done there exactly with the original words? Breath, chair, day. What have we done? Have we added, taken away? What exactly have we done? Jana is saying, why not chairman? Because, Jana, in this day of political correctness and equality, gender equality, we cannot talk about a chairman anymore, because why can it not be a woman? So we need to be gender neutral in our use of language, and we need to be gender neutral when we're also training our advanced students, because if our advanced students then go to study in the UK or the US or Canada or anywhere, and they talk about gender specific, they use gender specific language in the wrong context, people will get very, very angry and very upset. It's not about women's rights there, Ivan. That's a whole new discussion. Okay. The final one now. During his dada, he would climb trees. Compound, yes, absolutely. Good. Yeah, what about number 8 there? Everyone's very excited about the boyhood. Well done. Yeah, okay. Yeah, ooh, there's some interesting ones coming up for number 8 there. And number 9, anyone going to go for? Absolutely. Well done. Well done. Yeah. Boyhood, ownership, and unsupervised. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Okay. So again, what have we done here? Are these? We've used suffixes, yes. With the number 9, also prefixes, so affixes, essentially. Exactly. Good. Well done. Well done. So yeah, we can talk about internal changes or compounding or affixation. And I mean, these are very, very fancy words. I'm not sure whether our teenagers need to know these words: internal change, compounding, or affixation. But we need to be aware ourselves so that we can try and help our students to organize this language for them. Okay. Now, the thing about all of this is spelling. Yeah, spelling is very important, because if they spell something incorrectly, they're just not going to get the point. Can anyone tell? It is a police officer and a firefighter. Yes, I'm glad that conversation is continuing in the chat box there. Right. Can anyone tell me? Okay, this is word formation. Spelling is important. Yeah. Spelling is important in general on the use of English paper. In which other exam task that you can think of is spelling important? Writing, less so. I mean, yes, obviously it needs to be recognizable, but remember, when we assess writing, then we're assessing the good bits. We're not counting the spelling mistakes. All of them. Okay, right. Yeah, listening, exactly. Thank you. Listening, part 2, I believe it is, where they have to complete sentences. Spelling is also very important there. And again, if something is spelled incorrectly, then they're simply just not going to get the point, which may seem very mean, but this is C1. Let's try and spell correctly. I know for people, for Russian, spelling is a quite, seems to be, with all due respect, quite random. People randomly associate sounds with spellings, and I admit it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult, because English spelling is not particularly logical. Life is hard sometimes. What can we do? But, okay. Oh, something for you to think about. I'm going to move. I've forgotten about that slide. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What a terrible presenter. Okay, but I'm going to move on. Okay, right. I'm going to come back to my spellings. I'm going to think about keyword transformations. Do you like keyword transformations? I think keyword transformations are fun. Really fun. Does anyone want to help us out here? Could you remind me to phone Charlie on Friday? I'd... Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah, there are, I've seen a couple of correct answers there, so well done, well done. Exactly. Yeah. I'd be grateful if you'd, or if you would, or if you could remind me to phone Charlie on Friday. So any of those three alternatives would be perfectly acceptable. Is it a good idea, random question, is it a good idea during the exam to give as many alternatives as you can think of? No, exactly. Exactly, yeah. Choose one that you think is correct and stick with that, exactly. Because otherwise you won't get any points at all. Okay. I think there's another one of these. Yes. I think this is quite... Why is it not reminded? Well, yes, that's a whole different kettle of fish there, Eugene. I'm afraid that would take a little while to get there. Okay, what about this one? You won't get into the national team unless you try much harder. You'll have to try much harder. Okay, Eleonora, what about your word, your key word there, make? Make more effort. Okay. Look at that word, much harder, much harder, much harder. Yeah. Not just harder, much harder. To make better effort. Oh, this is fun. This is excellent. Make much more effort. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, so you'll have to make much more effort, or a much greater effort, or a lot more effort. Okay, so again, you've got alternatives there, but yeah, to make, certainly you need to put in much. And this is one of the problems that people come up against, that they forget to really include all of the meaning. This is the problem with keyword transformations. Yeah, a random word like much harder in the original sentence must be reflected in the second version, in the answer. Otherwise, well, you've not quite got the same meaning, you know. Okay. I think at some point, some of it is checked by a computer, but I think there are people to help out there. It depends, I think. I'm not very certain, to be honest. Yeah, efforts is a mistake because we don't count efforts. 1 effort, 2 effort, 3. Today I'm going to make 3 efforts. Yeah, I don't think so. We tend to make an effort, or we make greater effort, or a lot more effort. Okay. Okay. So here are some ideas for the classroom. Okay, because sometimes it's quite challenging, and I think when we start to work with our students, we need to think of ways of making it more achievable for our students. So here's a jumbled transformation. All you need to do is put the words in the right order. Beware, there may be an extra word that you don't need. Yeah, well done. Well done, well done. I think lots of people have got that. Yeah, congratulations. Woohoo. Okay, yeah. Here it is. The best you can to look after her children. Okay, yeah. So I think jumble transformations are quite a good thing to start with when you're working with students, because at least they have the words. It's good to give them an extra word, because if you have an extra word, then that, it makes the whole thing, it adds a level of challenge, because this is C1. And yes, we do need to get all of the words in the right order, but we also need to make choices. And adding a preposition is always a good thing. Adding possibly a modal is sometimes a good thing. Adding, if you have an article in there, adding the other article as well, okay, to help your students really think about it. Yeah. Okay. Here's another idea. Make it a multiple choice and let the class decide which answer fits best and why. Okay, so here you go. Unless the product is in perfect condition, we cannot return your money. A, B, or C, people. Oh, lots of C's. Oh, there's an A and a B. Yeah, you got a full set. Woohoo! Fabulous. But C's seem to be winning there. Okay, and rightly so, in fairness, because C is the correct answer. We will be unable to give you a refund if the product is not in perfect condition. Okay. Why? Oh, happy people. Is A not correct? Why is A not correct? We will be unable to pay you a refund unless the product is not in perfect condition. Why is A not correct? Unless, yes. Exactly. Yeah, it's a double negative. Well done, well done. Unless and not. Double negative, not possible. Someone said something about the collocation to pay you a refund is possibly less, not quite as strong a collocation as give you a refund, but it's still perfectly acceptable. So it's the double negative that is the problem. Why is B not correct? Nope, sorry, Ivan. You can refund money very happily. Too many words. Yes, absolutely. How many words can you use? Yeah, 6 words maximum. And here we have 7 words. Yeah, the phrase in itself is perfectly acceptable, absolutely wonderful, but there are too many words. And these are things that candidates regularly trip up over. And that doesn't seem to be very necessary, does it? Okay. So another idea also, possibly give them clues. Okay. So here you can see there's a clue. There's 2 parts, a request and an indirect question. And here, that's fine. You need to make sure, however, that the clues you give are understandable by your students. So, for example, my teenagers were like 16, and they didn't understand the linguistic meta-language because they'd never been taught it, or if they had been taught it, they were taught it in Russian. And my Russian is not up to this kind of thing, So you need to check just with your students. You need to make sure that they understand what you're talking about. It doesn't have to be this kind of linguistic blah blah blah. It can also, you can also sort of, you know, give them any other clue. Yeah, this is easily done. Once you look at the sentence and you look at the correct alternative, then you can easily find simpler clues that your students will be able to work with. And let's be honest, why can't you get your students to do this? Why can't you get your students to take an exercise like this and themselves make up the clues, themselves jumble up the response, themselves create a multiple choice option for the statement? Yeah, you know, it would be perfectly acceptable, wouldn't it? Think about that. Why should we as teachers do all the work where we're actually trying to make our teaching as learner-centered as possible? So let's give it to the learners and let them play with the language. Yeah, let them play with the language. Okay, so some classroom strategies, as you can see there. I like the first one. Yeah, make it one question at a time, because, you know, in the exam it's 6 questions and it can be quite overwhelming. Online and also in the classroom with a projector, I tend to just have one sentence on the screen with the keyword, and then I invite everybody to annotate my screen. I had to write all over my slide or to write all over the whiteboard. I tend to project onto a whiteboard in the classroom, if at all possible, because that's just so much more practical. And then you can have competitions as well. You can get the faster finishers to continue, or more practically, you can also ask them to look, as I say, at the grammatical features and to figure out exactly what they've done, so that they can try and help their fellow students. Why not? Okay, right. Okay. There we go. So, pitfalls. What are the most common problems for learners with keyword transformations? And I think we've actually already covered them. So I'm not going to make you think about that right now. They write too many words. You've just demonstrated that yourselves. Well done. They changed the word given, which of course is not what is supposed to happen. Sometimes I think candidates get a bit desperate and think, I can't do anything with this, I have to change it. Yeah, there's always another way to do that. Sometimes they don't understand the original sentence. And the problem here with C1 and C2 is that the language becomes very idiomatic. This is practically the only part of the paper where they really test idiomatic language, collocations, negative constructions, inversion, all those tricky bits and pieces that crop up in your C1 and C2 class books or textbooks. All of the C1 preparation books really hammer this kind of language because that's what is going to come up in the keyword transformations, for example. It's not just about production, it's actually more about recognizing the structures, being able to figure out, yes, we had that. Okay. 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 So again, I think examination preparation can be a very lonely road, can't it? Especially if you're doing this through self-study, or if your group is so small that you seem to think that there's no point in asking them to work together. But actually, I'm a firm believer in the learner or learners working together and working things out for themselves. And at C1 level, frankly, they should be able to do that, shouldn't they? Okay. And that's kind of a lot of what I do in the classroom. I encourage them to talk to each other. Yeah. Too many words again. Exactly. Thank you, Eugene. Yes. Yeah. And what's the most obvious problem with this solution? We're not using until. Exactly. Let's be honest. There's no until in there. That's the biggest problem. It's also too long as well. Anyone want to give us an idea what the correct answer might be? Full indeed. That's true. Yeah. Right. Thank you. Thank you. It wasn't until we finally got on dry land again. It wasn't until we finally got on dry land again. Okay. Exactly. Okay. Yeah, we need the finally because of the only, don't we really? Or I suppose you could argue it wasn't until we got on dry land. Yeah, you would have an argument for not using the finally, but okay, there we go. Well done. So whoever was too scared about doing that, seriously? Spelling. We talked about spelling earlier, and I'm back with it right now. These are the 10, apparently, according to Cambridge's database, these are the 10 most commonly misspelt words at C1 Advanced. Can you identify which of these words are incorrect and write the correct spelling in the chat box, please? Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I can see lots of people. Absolutely. Yeah, very good, yeah. So there we go. Yeah. Simple mistakes, and this whole thing about accommodation. I mean, native speakers regularly get that one wrong. Environment, we don't hear the N, so I think with words like environment, which for non-users of the Latin alphabet, if you're not hearing the sound, why are you writing it? Perfectly understandable. Okay. Necessary is another native speaker issue. Yes, thank you, Emma, for admitting that. It is not that easy, is it? So here's a task for you, okay? And normally you would do this in pairs or in a small group. If I was using Zoom, I'd be putting people in breakout rooms and so on and so forth, but it's a bit difficult with the webinar, so you're on your own. Sorry about that. I'm going to tell you a couple of words, actually a collocation, and I'd like you to write them in the chat box, please. Okay, let's see how good your spelling is. Who's going to be the first? Government committee. Government committee. Ooh, some of the some nice, good, wonderful. Next one. Guilty conscience. Guilty conscience. Yeah, good. Here's another one. Overall responsibility. Overall responsibility. It's like a chant, isn't it? Overall responsibility. Sorry. Yeah. Well done. You people are doing really well. Absolutely fabulous. A last one, just to see how you get on with it. Frequent occurrence. Frequent occurrence. Okay. Yay. So, occurrence. Wow. There's some interesting spellings coming up there. Okay. You can check the spellings here. So the idea is, again, that you're encouraging your learners to help each other. And as I say, you can do this in pairs. These are just some of the suggestions that the Cambridge Assessment people make, okay? But you know yourselves the types of words that are frequently spelt incorrectly. Yeah, ask your local native speaker of English, because they're likely to make similar errors with spelling with this high-level words, because let's be honest, these are not words that we use or write on an everyday basis. So yeah, that's part of the problem. So that's an idea for you to play with. And again, you know, you probably have a list of such words and phrases that you can just, you know, slip into a lesson. No preparation really needed there. Yeah. Okay, right. We're now moving on to speaking and writing. Okay. What problems have you come about, or come up with, or no, come across? That's the word. Let's get the phrasal verbs right for a change. What problems have you come across when speaking and writing? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Content. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I can practice. Yeah. Yeah. Beating around the bush. Yeah. 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 There's all kinds of things coming up there. Quite agree. Yes. Yeah. It's hard. Yeah, you're coming up with some great things there. Okay. And in point of fact, you have mentioned already a couple of things that I'm going to be looking at. Okay. Yes, the ideas, the content is always a problem with English and writing. And I'm using here speaking material you can see on your screen, a sample task for the collaborative task. But there is no real reason why this should not be done in writing. And the problem with sounding natural, it's because I think teachers seem to think that, oh, that's a lovely phrase, I must use that phrase. Whereas actually, isn't communication more about content? And then having got the content, let's match a useful phrase. I think we're kind of going, a lot of us are going the wrong way around, you know. So a lot of the course books, they say, here's a list of fabulous and wonderful cohesive devices. You must use these in your speaking test, or you must use these when you're writing. But my problem with that, and I think if you think about it, it's quite reasonable, is that candidates tend to try and put sentences together using these phrases and not really worrying about the content. Yeah, so we've got to try and think of it first. Content is there, and if we want to make it sound natural, let's work on the content and think about the language. Try and match the language in. Okay, so we've got problems with content here. Okay, so with the collaborative task and also with the writing, you're looking at presenting arguments. You're looking at both sides of the argument. Okay, so here's an example. And yes, it's got nothing to do with the previous task. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah. To what extent is Facebook a negative influence on our lives? Let's come up with sentences that basically present both sides of the argument, because then we've already got the content and we've thought about a phrase as well, haven't we? While I agree that Facebook often publicizes too much. I also think blah, blah, blah. And this is what we're going to try and do in just a second, okay? I've got another example. I'm going to let you read that because you can. Okay. So here I'm trying to encourage the learners to have the ideas and to automatically contrast the ideas using the language. Okay. So you're my guinea pigs. Yay. I'm going to put some statements in the next slide. On the next slide, you're going to see some statements, and I'd like you to choose any one of the statements. I don't really care which one of the statements, okay? And I'd like you to write a sentence presenting both sides of the argument, okay? Just a sentence, not a whole paragraph, not an essay, just a sentence, okay? Can we manage that? I'm sure we can. Because you're amazing people, okay? You've got 4 statements there. You may think they are slightly controversial. I think they're very toned down, personally. Okay. So just choose one sentence and write one statement. Write a sentence presenting both sides of the argument. Looking forward to this. Okay, thank you, Artyom. Yeah. All music, you find all music unbearable? That seems very sad, but you know, whatever. Okay, right. Yeah, super, wonderful. Okay, someone's taken the sentence and rewritten it. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Nice, nice. Okay. Thank you, Eugene. That's an interesting statement. Ooh, pernicious. Whoa, fancy word there. Okay, right. You see? Well done, well done. All kinds of sentences coming out there. Now you're going to say, yes, but I can't say that. Why not? Some of the sentences that I can read in the chat box are quite formal. But on the other hand, if we think about this carefully, actually, yes, when we talk, and when we're talking at C1 level, because remember, this is not, you know, a chat among teens in the park. Yeah, this is C1 level is vaguely academic. It's supposed to be helping students to prepare to study in the foreign language. So you're talking about presenting more academic type arguments. So yeah, it is perfectly acceptable. And one good thing about inviting students to write these sentences, not just say them, to write them first, is that giving students time to produce the sentence on paper makes them feel happier and more confident when they actually say that. And the more of this preparation you do with content and with language on paper or keyboard or whatever, yeah, the more confident people become, the easier it becomes to produce this when they're actually speaking. So in our classrooms, this sentence is still coming in there. I like this trigger. Wow. Okay. So in our classrooms, be they virtual classrooms or real classrooms, I think there is always going to have to be time, 5 minutes at the beginning, or 5 minutes at the end. Yeah? Just a quick statement, and encourage your students, as soon as they see the statement or they hear the statement, you know, get their brains turning around, get them to write sentences. I think when you start doing things like this, then you're going to just, you know, give them a little bit of time to do that. But as they become better and better at generating the ideas, at producing these ideas using contrastive language already, so that you've got both sides of the argument in there, they will become quicker at this. And then you can make it more of a competition. Who's going to come up with the longest? Who's going to come up with the most detailed? Who's going to come up with the fanciest word collocations? You know, this kind of thing. Teenagers generally are, although they keep trying to tell you that they are totally disinterested and what have you, actually they are generally very competitive. And you know, as I say again, the more you do this in class, the more you insist, bang, here's a statement, now give me that sentence, present both sides of the article. The more you do that, the more often you do that, the easier it becomes to generate the ideas and to develop the ideas by extension. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you like the unbearable noise, Valentina. That's wonderful. Okay. Right. Moving on again. Okay. Right. Here's another idea, which I'm not going to make you do right now, but it's essentially an extension of that, of what you've just done. Okay. Again, I'm not going to read it because you can. Clearly, the first time you do this kind of thing, it's going to take your students a while to produce their arguments and to prepare for the role play and so on and so forth. But as they become more and more used to it, then again, the idea is that it's quite quick. Okay, this one is talking about groups. I think equally, if you have a small class, a small group of students, for example, I had 6. So instead of having the 2 groups and only 2 people speaking, I would probably, you know, redivide the 2 groups into 3 pairs and then get them to do that themselves. Because that gives everyone the chance to think and to produce language. And that's what it's all about when it comes down to it. But I like the idea of this, because as the slide indicates, it's all about confidence, and it's all about, remember, intervening, stopping each other, interrupting. That was the word I was looking for. Interrupting during these collaborative tasks when you're speaking. One of the biggest problems that I've come against is that, and this is, I didn't have this problem in Germany when I used to work in Germany and I taught students, didn't have the same problem, but in Russia, again, with all due respect, you people seem to speak in long periods. You don't seem to really get the concept of the discussion. So it's, okay, I am speaking now. I am going to speak for the next 5 minutes. I am not actually going to say very much, but I am going to keep speaking. You will not interrupt me. That person stops speaking. Dostoevsky is to blame. Well, possibly. Lot to answer for. Yes, exactly. So, and then the one finishes and looks at the other one. The other one kind of realizes, oh, it's my turn now. Good, it's my turn now. So I'm not going to talk for the next 5 minutes. I might actually respond to what my partner has just said, but then again, I may ignore it completely and wander off at a tangent. So you see, we're not getting the interaction. It's got nothing to do with being polite. It's got everything to do with, I think, not being used to it, not being challenged to interrupt each other. Yeah. So during our lessons, as much as possible, it doesn't really matter. You can do this online, you can do this in the classroom. You have to encourage your students to interrupt each other. You have to teach them how to interrupt each other as well. So there's special functional language for that. Along the lines of, yes, I hear what you're saying, you know, taking a deep breath and just launching in. I hear what you're saying, but and bouncing the whole thing backwards and forwards, like table tennis. You people like table tennis, you play table tennis, so why can't we do this when we speak? Yeah. One of the drastic measures that I resorted to with my teenagers last year, which worked well, although they hated me for it, but never mind. I had a sort of a thing that made a noise, like a hooter, or it was actually a squeezy toy or something. And when I squeezed it, it made a noise, and they went up in. So the idea was, one started talking, and if I felt they were talking too long, which is basically longer than 15 seconds, then they heard this noise, and then they knew they had to stop, and somebody had to interrupt. And once we'd got that principle going, they all did that, and they were all much, much more conscious of the need to interrupt and to interact with each other. Okay. You do, Emma? I'm sorry about that. But yes, you're absolutely right. This is absolutely the problem. It's a series of monologues, and this is so what we do not need at this level. So we've got to think about that. Okay. There was something else that I had up here, so we'll try and move on. Whoops, it's the wrong key to hit. There we go. Now, the essay. Everybody loves writing essays, don't they? Yay, so exciting. And we've been saying all along, content is the problem. Okay, so this is one idea. This to think about how to exploit the essay prompt as part of a lesson. You could run a role play. First of all, you could actually have the collaborative task using this, and hopefully it will generate the ideas that they will then work on. Okay, and that's fine. I had another silly idea. Yeah. Online lessons, yeah, it's quite difficult online, but I'm using Zoom very, very happily. I love Zoom. The breakout rooms are amazing. Okay, so let me see. Just look at the topic, or the task, the statement. I think the next, let me just see what the next one does. Yes, okay, yeah. Just look at this statement, and now in the chat box, yes, Padlet, yes, absolutely, very, very useful. And you can use Padlet online for this, for precisely this kind of task. So what I'm asking you to do now in the chat box, you can use Padlet in the classroom apart from anything else. They all have mobile phones, right? In the chat box, please, what one-word topics or ideas spring to mind when you read this statement? Okay, we're still on Teams, Jumbo, whatever. Okay, yeah. What one-word ideas spring to mind? Okay, thank you. It's not quite a one-life balance, but yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, one word there, Ludmilla. What happened to the one word? Good grief. Okay, there we go. We're getting all kinds of. I'm sure when Cambridge came up with this particular essay statement, that they weren't actually thinking of lockdown, but Okay. Right. These are all very, very depressing. Values, I suppose, is a little bit, okay. Right. Can we think of anything less depressing? Okay. Okay. Choices is again more neutral. Thank you. Okay. Well done. So I think it's important before sex. God. Right. It's important before we even start to think about writing. Okay. Let's just look at this prompt, because again, we need to exploit the prompt to get the ideas. Okay. Yes, we're given ideas in the exam, but is it not easier if we can instantaneously come up with these ideas ourselves? Yeah. Okay. So moving on, I think health was mentioned quite a lot. I think the concept of entertainment was mentioned in some ways, and working life I'm not so sure about. But anyway, these are the 3 areas which were suggested as prompts. So now, for one of these areas, yeah, either entertainment or working life or health, in the chat box, please, one opinion about one of these things. Write your opinion. Choose one of these topics. Write your opinion in the chat box, please. Timeliness. Ooh, that's a nice word. Procrastination. It's my favorite hobby. Thank you, Emma. Lovely. Okay, sentences, opinions now. Come on, guys. Opinions. Okay. Yeah. Remember, we're rating it into technological progress, but yeah. Okay. Thank you, Farida. Nice. So I think the introduction of a modal or 2 would probably be the more British way of looking at it, may, and so on and so forth. But yes. Anybody else? Okay. Right. That's an interesting thought there, Nikita. A huge variety. Yeah. And keep going with that opinion. Yeah. Brings us a huge variety of entertainment, not all of which is particularly wonderful or qualitative or whatever. Okay. Nice, Alexei. Yeah, lovely. Okay. So, yeah, and this is my whole point. Going about it in this way, is the idea is that we're helping to generate ideas and then the language, not the language and then the ideas. Okay. And do you know, oh, happy teachers, I've seen a lot of teachers take C1, C2 exams. And teachers are wonderful, wonderful people. I'm a teacher. So I know exactly how wonderful we really are. But teachers, when you go into an exam room with a mental list of cohesive devices that I must use, do you know, your examiners can see that mental list. They can see you ticking off those cohesive phrases, those cohesive devices as you go. Forget the list. Content plus language, not language and a bit of content, or like I'm saying, that's not how we operate in real life, is it? In real life, we don't go around the world saying, oh, I must use this phrase in the next 20 minutes. That's not how we work. It's not how we operate, is it? Okay, so this is my point here. Okay, smile, smile, smile. Yeah, whoops, that was the wrong button again. Okay, these were the actual topics, the actual opinions that were given. Okay, but that is irrelevant essentially. And the next thing to do with that would be possibly to take the opinions given and to develop those as well. Okay, so it's all about, you know, everything that you know, world can wait, world health is a virtual thing. That's an interesting attitude there, a very interesting attitude. Okay, so I have noticed that I am right out of time, so I am going to stop talking here and now. I'm going to thank you all for being with me this morning, this afternoon, wherever. A good rest of the conference. Bye.
Thank you, Claire. Very interactive presentation. Thanks a lot to Claire. Thanks a lot to all the participants. And now I'm happy to introduce Victoria Pena and George Heritage, our colleagues from Spain. Victoria, George, please start webcasting.
Hello.
Hello, George.
It's coming.
Hello.
Hello, Victoria. Can you see your slides? Is everything okay?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I can see them. Are you okay, Victoria?
Great.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for having us. It's lovely. My name's George Heritage. I work in the Assessment Services Department in the Madrid office for Cambridge Assessment English. And
Hello, my name is Victoria and I work with George in the Assessment Services Department in the Madrid office.
excellent. I think I'm going to turn my camera off because I've got a bit of a wobbly connection. But today we're going to be focusing much more on the receptive skills at C1 and moving up a little bit into C2, but we'll be focusing mainly on C1. Often the receptive skills are perhaps or not given quite as much attention as use of English and listening and speaking. I think it's quite easy or quite tempting as teachers to sort of give students reading for homework or assume that they are developing their reading and their listening skills on their own, but we know that that's not always the case and perhaps not always done in the most effective way. So we'll be looking at some things to try in class and some different approaches to self-study. We won't be looking at self-study materials exactly, because I think once you get to C1 and C2, yes, you need to familiarize yourself with the exam, the format of the exam, what's going to happen, what the tasks are like. But the great advantage of C1 and C2 is that anything in English that is authentic can serve as useful self-study material. Was that clear, Victoria? I sort of lost it halfway through, I think.
I think it was clear, George.
Yeah. So we'll be looking at how we can use a lot of the authentic, genuine material to develop some of the skills that perhaps we don't think about enough in class and that really become much more important at this level. Lots of the sub-skills of reading and listening. And I know that in Southern Europe, I spoke to Claire earlier, she said the same in Germany, and I imagine in Russia, reading and listening tend to come out as the weakest skills. So we need to focus on them a little bit more, I think, and make sure that our students are developing these in the right way. So, Victoria,
what are we
overview?
going to look at today? Yes, we are going to be looking at developing receptive skills. We will try to give you some ideas, some teaching and self-study ideas to develop them. As George said, the best way to prepare for the exams is by practicing the different skills. So we're going to focus quite a lot on skills integration, because in real life, skills are rarely used in isolation. We will also have a look at the wide variety of authentic material available for higher levels. So we will try to give you some tips to use them, to use these material effectively. And we're going to finish by talking about student autonomy and the role of teachers as facilitators, because although promoting student autonomy is relevant at all levels, it probably becomes even more necessary and feasible at these higher levels.
Excellent. We will not be talking about use of English. I think Claire touched on some of the potential pitfalls. It was always my feeling teaching that if they're ready for C1 and C2, that use of English shouldn't really take too much thought. I think it should be quite instinctive, really. And one of the best ways of developing and ensuring that use of English is there is from a lot of engagement with a wide variety of material. So we'll start off with reading. What are these, Victoria?
Okay, these are can-do statements, and they are taken from our handbook for teachers, but they are these are created taking into account the common, or based on the Common European Framework of Reference.
Exactly, which is a very long, very detailed, but very useful document. I think the last PDF version I saw was 270 pages, and it is made up of a series of can-do statements. So what students are expected to be able to do at this level. It's a lovely way to structure your teaching and your learning. And it has these can-do statements at every level of the CFR for each skill and various topic areas. We've taken from work and study here. So reading can understand the general meaning of more complex articles without serious misunderstanding. And Victoria?
Yeah, for study, learners can scan text for relevant information and grasp main topic of text.
Excellent. So skilled readers at C levels are doing a lot of different things at the same time. The beginning is a little bit more use of English focused, but obviously your use of English knowledge plays through your understanding of everything. So being able to distinguish between similar words, or being able to read, spilling, pouring, flowing, leaking, recognizing collocations, using the context around gaps to decide on the correct answer, obviously much more use of. Recognizing, paraphrasing. I think, especially at this level, focusing on skills in isolation sometimes is useful, but as Victoria was saying earlier, we use language naturally across all skills. Number 5, Victoria?
Yeah, they can discriminate between accurate answers and the distractors. They can also recognize coherence of a text and cohesive devices. And finally, they can skim and scan effectively, quickly and accurately. And of course, they can, sorry, George, and they can decide when to use which reading subskill.
Exactly. It's being able to have a very quick look at a text and decide how you are going to engage with it. Each of the reading parts of C1 and C2 has a different focus. Some of them need a combination of different reading skills, but some of the texts are intentionally too long to be read in detail and then read the questions and then find the answer. We really need students to sort of instinctively approach and engage with texts in the appropriate way. So we've used this beautiful multicolored pyramid to structure the rest of the talk. You want to talk us through it, Victoria? Different ways we can help our students?
Yeah, so no surprises here. We need to expose our students to a variety of real-life texts because we need to give them the opportunity to explore their content and put into practice different reading strategies, and also use them to learn new vocabulary and also become familiar with different types of text structure.
Working on language and language precision, which obviously feeds explicitly more into the use of, but we need our students to be well equipped to deal with reading and engaging with larger, longer texts, both reading and listening.
Yes, also we need to give our students a variety of reading strategies, or teach them a variety of reading strategies. So skimming, scanning, reading questions first, deciding to read the text first, reading the title, predicting information. These, as George said, sometimes need to be used for the same task, and sometimes we need to decide how to engage with the text.
Very quickly. Being able to recognize and ask for evidence and justification, especially at this level now, very complex, longer multiple choice comprehension questions. That needs to be dealt with very quickly. And sometimes that's focusing more on an opinion or an argument. Sometimes it's something very detailed, or even something that is inferred. And as we said before, getting them used to using a variety of strategies. So we'll start off on the micro. What are we looking at here, Victoria?
We are looking at, I think it's a multiple choice task, but here we can only see one of the paragraphs of the text. And we are going to see how working on language and language precision is important even when we are reading.
So why have we highlighted those two words, Victoria? Because they look like horrible words, don't they?
Yes, they are probably the most difficult words in this paragraph. And you know, we can never be sure that we are only going to find words that we know. So we need to be equipped with the strategies to try to infer the meaning of words that we don't know. So for that, we can rely on the context and also on some information coming from word formation.
So context is the word noun, verb, adjective, another part of speech. Is there a description, contrast, comparison in the sentences around the word? Is it preceded or followed by prepositions? Having worked on some Cambridge papers when I was back in Cambridge, I would imagine this horrible sentence would be the focus of the question in this paragraph at C1, maybe C2. Further things to consider with word formation, Victoria, ways you would pull this apart?
Yeah, if you can recognize the root of the word, or if you have seen a similar word before, even thinking about the origin of the words. If you are familiar with Latin or Greek, that can help maybe. So anything that can give you some clues about the meaning of the word.
So here, Anna, backwards, chronos, time. Taxonomy, arrangement, names. Instinctively engaging at that level very quickly with perhaps more unfamiliar words. But what does knowing a word really mean? And I think this is very important when we're picking up vocab. At this level, students should be, when they learn a new word, they should be learning 7 or 8, I would imagine. Prefixes, suffixes, the vocab family of that word. Would you like to continue, Victoria?
Yes, so it is true that we learn a lot about prefixes and suffixes, but we may think that just because we recognize a word in a text, in context, we know this word. But as you can see here, there are a lot of different aspects involved in this knowledge of vocabulary. So if we could recognize this, of course, but also understanding grammar restrictions, pronunciation, if we can spell it, how it relates to other words, so collocations here, also whether they are appropriate in a given situation or not. Also how we can build related words, and if we know all the forms of the word. So really there is a lot to be included in this knowledge of vocabulary.
Exactly. Collocations, fixed phrases. For the record, Victoria, when I see this, I've just moved flat and I've spent quite a lot of time organizing about 400 records. So for me, my instant reaction is a dusty old vinyl. A really nice online resource for this, both for the teachers and more advanced students, is the English vocab profile. And this came out of the Cambridge Learners Corpus, which is a project that's been running since the mid-90s, in collaboration with Cambridge University Press. Can you talk us through this, Victoria?
Yes, it is a learning tool because, as you can see here, it gives you information about the level at which learners are expected or can use this vocabulary in context. Okay, so it is important to bear in mind that we are talking here about production, so writing or speaking. This is taken from scripts produced by our candidates, but we need to bear in mind that, of course, the learners may be able to recognize this vocabulary earlier than at these levels.
Exactly. Another really nice thing we found recently, apparently it's been around for quite a long time, is this visual words. So you can type a word in and it, I think using artificial intelligence now, maybe not in its earlier days, it creates this vocab tree or family for you. So you have common combinations, collocations, different ways it can be used. It's a really nice way once you learn a word, or with words you already know, try typing them in. If you're a language nerd like we are, it's quite interesting. Victoria spent hours on this. So that was having a quick look at language, a very close analytical look at language in isolation. But we spoke earlier about different reading skills. So what skills do learners need at C1, Victoria?
Probably a wide range of skills, because at C1 you can pretty much do anything, right, with language. So you need to be ready to use language in a variety of ways and read it in a variety of styles.
Skimming a text to decide if it's interesting or relevant, understanding the text in detail to get to learn more about a topic or for information to support research, quickly locate information in longer text, follow instructions, pretty much every way you can imagine reading. And at C2 it becomes even more terrifying. So how do we approach reading in class in a structured and useful way, Victoria?
Yes, probably we can start with motivation. So asking our students, we can ask our students to collaborate with us and supply the text themselves, maybe on topics that they feel that they are interesting, also coming from different sources in different register. So there is a variety, and this variety is going to be positive and is going to increase students' motivation. Also, it is a good idea to start with pre-reading discussion questions that students feel engaged. And why not integrate reading with other skills? Because as we said at the beginning, skills are not used in, or are rarely used in isolation in real life.
Exactly, and we're not going to pretend that the reading texts selected for C1 Advanced and C2 Proficiency are always that fascinating and interesting. We have quite tight restraints on material that we're allowed to use, because it has to be appropriate to a completely global audience. Quite a lot of natural history. That's quite safe, isn't it, Victoria?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
But the advantage, as Victoria was saying, at this level, I think really involving the students as far as possible in choosing what they want to be reading about can help up their motivation and their engagement. Really exploiting every text that you use in as many ways as possible. Lead in, lead out, teaching structures and lexis, reflection activities, discussions, using them for paraphrasing. We are aware that there's a limited amount of sort of specific practice material available for C1 and C2, but the internet is full of a wealth of material that you can use. It's just making sure you use it effectively. And scaffolding that, Victoria?
Yes, exactly. Sometimes it's not really about the material that you are using, but how you support your students to be able to use it effectively. So introducing pre-reading activities, maybe offering some support in terms of vocabulary, but also giving students practice with speed reading and making them familiar with longer and more complex texts.
Excellent. Hopefully you have all heard of Write and Improve, which I think is one of the best resources we have. It's a great way for students to practice their writing, get instant feedback. That was all based on that Cambridge Learners Corpus we were talking about earlier. It's a wonderful, wonderful resource run by artificial intelligence that was trained using real candidate scripts, so it has a very deep understanding of what is typical at each level of the CFR. Another product which is in development at the moment is Read and Improve. Can you tell us about this, Victoria?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is a new project and a new website that we launched quite recently, and it offers a number of texts, quite a high number of texts at different levels. So as you can see here, you can choose the level. You can also see the sources. So quite a lot, quite a few newspapers and news media, and also some information about the level. So in this case, we have aimed high, and we have chosen C2.
C2 plus.
And well, this is some. Sorry.
No,
okay.
That's fine. Carry on.
And here you can see the one we have chosen about consumer expenditure.
Exactly.
So in ABC News, and you can see here the text itself.
So this again uses similar technology to Write and Improve to scan the internet and decide on the level of a text. Okay, so we've taken this one. It comes up on screen. It's not hugely what can I say? It's not hugely attractive or different, but the text comes up. Yes, this is available. It is very much in development, but I think it's a great tool, especially for our higher levels. So the text comes up and you can then hover over any word, for example, durable, and this will pop up. So it links straight through to the Cambridge English Dictionary. It gives you a definition, which is useful. But also, this I really like. Using the artificial intelligence, it gives you a percentage of how sure it is of which part of speech it is. That wasn't very clear, was it? It's pretty sure it's an adjective. It is correct. It gives you various definitions for the words depending on whether they're being used as adjectives, nouns, etc. That's cool. It also gives you this, which I love. This is similar to that Visu words we showed you earlier. It gives you a word cloud of the most common words that durable occurs with. So durable goods, to be durable, incredibly durable, a durable relationship. So again, a really nice way to build on which words commonly occur with parts of Lexis. And another really great thing is this, a very quick comprehension text, and this is a wonderful way to practice writing at C1 and C2, is the summary option. So underneath, thank you, and underneath it, each article It asks, you have the option to write a short summary of the text, and it then gives you a grade. I think it gives you a grade on how well you have summarized the text.
Yes, and it gives you a score in terms of relevance and also, I think, the writing ability.
Exactly, based on the same technology as Write and Improve. So I did this one really quickly. I think I managed to get, did I manage to get a C2? Did I,
Yes,
Victoria?
you did.
I can't remember.
Yes.
I did, it's on the next screen. Excellent. But apparently I was more relevant than able to write. But it's a great tool for our higher students. I'd really thoroughly recommend using it. Again, it's in development, but the more input, the more data it gets, the better it will become. Okay,
Yes, there is a question, George, in the chat box, whether it is already available. You said it is available, and they can capture the QR code and get the link to start practicing.
We'll leave that on for a little bit longer for the QR code. But it's a wonderful system. Yes, Natalia, it's free. Again, it's in development, so you can't possibly charge for something that's in development. Write and Improve has various. You can use Write and Improve very widely for free. There is a subscription model as well, which offers extra functionality for teachers, etc. But Write and Improve, students can use it completely for free, and teachers, just not with all of the functionality that it offers. So please check them out. Moving on, I don't know whether you're all teaching face-to-face or online or in a hybrid situation. You could do this using, I think you could do this activity in any of those situations. Do you want to talk us through this activity, Victoria? I really like this one.
Yes. Well, this is just an example of how you can use different news stories, so authentic material. The idea here is that you cut the three texts up into paragraph chunks, and you put them on different tables or on different Padlets, and you get your students to work in groups or pairs, and you assign each group a news desk and a story. So they have to put the stories back together in the correct order. And then if you want to integrate this reading with speaking or writing, you can ask them to prepare a summary of their story for feedback to the class. So it is a nice way to get students to reflect on the structure of the text, also on cohesive devices that are going to tell them in which order they need to put the different paragraphs.
And it's a great authentic but quite focused explicit practice for, I can't remember which part. Can you remember which part? Which one? Part 6, part 7?
Yeah, it must be towards the end, I think so.
Yeah, somewhere around there. This would work at lower levels as well. I mean, you could do this sort of B2. To add an extra layer of difficulty, you could find 3 news stories and put all 3 news stories cut up on each table. We're going to look at this in a bit more detail now, or how you could approach doing this in a bit more detail. It's up to you. Either each story cut up on one table, or all stories cut up and put on the same table. Okay. You could use Padlet. I don't know if you're familiar with Padlet, but we've seen hundreds of different ways of using Padlet effectively. You want to talk us quickly through how you could use Padlet for this, Victoria, or what it is if people haven't heard of it? Well,
Padlet is it is an app or a website in where you can register and create. It's like a different rooms, so to speak, so students can see the text or anything that you upload there, so videos, links, etc. And they can actually move the text or the boxes or whatever you give them. And it is a nice way to get them to collaborate at the same time, even if they are not sitting side by side, so if they are working or learning from home.
Right, we're going to have a quick look here, and I really think the media is a wonderful resource, especially from C1 upwards. What's great about it when we're looking both at sort of detailed language and taking a slight step back is the variety of language and persuasive devices, styles, approaches to writing that you can find, and it's all available for you on the internet. So we've taken 3 stories here, focusing on the same topic. So this was taken from The Guardian. Don't know if you're familiar with The Guardian. It's a very famous broadsheet in the United Kingdom. It has a slightly left leaning to it. Here is The Guardian article. And we've taken this from the BBC. Okay, BBC Online. BBC, as far as, well, the BBC's remit is to stay politically independent. So there's not a huge amount of opinion in the BBC. It's very sort of to the point. Here are the facts without too much. It depends, obviously, on the focus of the story. And this story comes from The Sun, which used to be the best-selling newspaper in the United Kingdom. It's a tabloid. And a lot of people think, whoa, The Sun, but actually the writing, the technical writing, requires quite a degree of expertise. It's very colloquial, very punchy, very persuasive. I don't think The Sun has ever lost an election. So it's very interesting to take the same story from 3 different sources and start analyzing it in detail. So, style. Victoria, what do we have to say about this?
Well, if you read it quickly, you will see that the complexity in terms of syntax is quite high. There are the sentences are quite long, and there are also subordinate clauses, which add additional details. So in this case, maybe we can say that it is a bit more demanding for readers.
Exactly. Sorry, I've lost my place. Sorry, I've lost the clicker. There you go. Again, you can see here lots of subordinate clauses, fairly complex sentences with additional information in between. There you go. Further examples in the 3rd paragraph. Rod Taylor said, it's a really nice way for students to pick the language apart as well. And this, again, will influence their writing. So there's The Guardian. There you can see subordinate clauses in green, fairly detailed, syntactically complex. We move on to the BBC. Victoria?
Yeah, here you can see that the paragraphs and the sentences are much shorter. The structure of the language in general, the sentences and the paragraphs is more simple, and it makes it more accessible for readers in general.
No, only one subordinate clause in this, in the 3rd paragraph. And it's not really a subordinate clause, actually, is it? God, I caught myself out there. That's the only paragraph where there's more than one piece of punctuation. No? Yeah, it is. Yeah. The only paragraph with 2. And these are basically 1-sentence paragraphs. Okay. If we move on to The Sun, this is fairly different. Would you like to talk us through this, Victoria, or shall I?
I'll leave it to you, George, and I'm going to find the link to English profile because I think Ivan is asking for it.
So here we can see much more emphatic language, drown out, drastic, trillions of tons, much shorter sentences. It's accessible to readers. It's much more emotive and emphatic. Again, we can see no subordinate clauses in the first 4 paragraphs. It's bam, 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 but it's not as sort of objective as the BBC. Here we can see there's the only subordinate clause. That's about 10% of the world's population. It's very entertaining to read The Sun. And a lot of people are a bit snobby about tabloids, but it's a very different approach to using language, and it's really fun. I used to do lessons. I used to have a media week with my students, and we would look at the same stories like this in taken from different publications and try to rewrite stories in different styles. It's not easy, but it's very interesting, and it is all available for you online. So there we've had a look at the sort of style. If we have a look at language and tone. Oh, sorry, I've lost my clicker again.
Okay. Well, a bit what we said before in terms of language, the complexity of the syntax and the longer sentences. In terms of the tone as well, we can see that the Guardian one offers more academic and sophisticated lexis and syntax.
Yeah, lots of quite sophisticated or more sophisticated adjectives, etc. And yes, Farida, I completely agree. So it is fun for mastering a language, but make sure that you don't get drawn in. If we look at the BBC, again, it's more simple. It's simpler. It's fairly accessible. More factual information, fewer adjectives. Shorter sentences and paragraphs. And moving on to The Sun, as we said earlier. Victoria?
Yes, much more emphatic. We can see here like drown out, drastic consequences.
The work of 100 leading experts.
So much more emphatic.
Yeah, it's a really nice way to help them engage with something, and you can keep it relevant and appropriate to them. So have a play with that. I used to do it. I would have lots of fun with it. You've got to be a little bit careful, make sure there's nothing that would be too offensive to any students, but it's good fun. And use a mixture. Drop a tabloid in. The Daily Mail is another one. I wouldn't say the Daily Mail is quite as masterfully written as The Sun, for example, but it's a really interesting way to look at different ways to use language. Great for their reading, and hopefully will rub off on their writing as well. So we're 5 minutes over. We're doing pretty well, Victoria. There are some ideas for reading. As I said, nothing can really beat exposing students to a large variety of texts, not just academic, not just journalistic, not just fiction, as wide a variety as possible. Excellent. On to listening skills, Victoria. What are we focusing on here? Or what are the can-do statements say for C1?
For C1 for work, we can learners at this level can follow discussions and arguments with only occasional need for clarification, employing good compensation strategies to overcome inadequacies.
And can follow up questions by probing for more detail in studies. So again, it's that natural interplay between listening and speaking. And I'm sorry, we've been a little bit preachy and lecturing for the last 35 minutes. So we'd like your input now. What difficulties do students at higher levels have with listening? Go in the chat box. It's quite difficult to make reading interactive, but I hope some of the ideas we come up with were useful. What difficulties do students, or do your students, or do you as students have with listening? Connected speech, vocabulary, accents. Yeah, getting used to shorter recordings. I mean, we never really go over, about 2 minutes, I'd say. 2.5 minutes maybe in our exams, and they are getting used to it. Informal language. I'm glad everybody's been very quiet during the reading, but it's because we were quite preachy. I'm glad we have a lot of people listening to us. Yeah, Emma, pick out details, and especially at this level we're working on, yes, detail, but opinion, main points, gist, the overall effect of a listening text, concentration. Yeah, and it's by far the most tiring skill, I think, listening. especially in an exam situation. I mean, speaking is stressful, but you're only in the speaking exam for 15 minutes, whereas listening, you've got to really be concentrating. Phrasal verb distractors.
Yeah, something that was mentioned there and I found interesting was the combination of listening and reading, because it is true that you need to be also reading the questions if you didn't do it before.
I mean, we call it the listening exam, but especially at C1, there's still quite a lot of input. So they've got to really deal with, they've got to really take advantage of the preparation time, and you've got to train them to do that. Really use that effectively before the listening starts. Exactly, Dana. Give them, Dana, different strategies to deal with different types of tasks. It's like we were saying with the reading, different sub-skills of listening. So we came up with, and you have covered nearly all of these, I think, connected speech, because we don't speak like that. Accent. In our exams, we only use native accents, but especially at C1 and above, that could be Canadian, a variety of North American, South African, Australian, New Zealand, Northern UK, Scottish, Welsh, Irish. Northern Irish is quite a lot to cover. Intonation and implication. Oh, that was interesting, Victoria.
Your word.
I'm sorry. Colloquial and idiomatic, and as I was saying before, the difference between global or listening for gist and listening for detail, knowing where they need to employ each of those. Right, I'm speaking too much. Your time, Victoria.
Yeah, so this brings us to the different types of listening that we need to put into practice. So we can listen for main points. We can also listen for gist, okay, so the general idea or the main idea. We can also listen to follow an argument, to understand opinion, to infer meaning, and for detail. We can say that listening to follow an argument, to infer meaning, and to understand opinion probably come at higher levels. At lower levels, most of the listening is going to be listening for detail, because it's the least complex one, and then the others will follow as we move up the language ladder.
And they don't exist in isolation at all, as we know. So it's being able to deal with these different sub-skills in a stressful exam situation. How can we help, Victoria?
Motivation always comes first. Students need to be interested and engaged, especially when listening, when they need to pay attention for a reasonably long time. Also, we need to provide them with authentic material so that they are familiar with different accents. It is true that sometimes they are very familiar to the teacher's accent, but they are not that familiar with other accents. So it is important to use these, because also it can be a source of motivation if some authentic material like songs or films can be very motivating as well. Then giving them practice in different listening sub-skills and making them aware of their choice. So why are you listening for detail here? Why have you decided that here you need to listen for gist? And then, of course, live listening, because it can be motivating for the students. It is more realistic because it takes place in the classroom and provides them with a clear context.
Excellent. So we're going to talk through a few ways of staging and structuring activities to try and focus on these skills now. So Victoria, these are your photos. How would we start with these?
Well, I think the photographs or visual input in general, it's a nice way to get students engaged and to get them to start thinking, activating their schemata, and it will help them predict what is coming next. So here we can use these pictures to ask them questions about challenges or the environment. So different topics here that maybe will be useful. Hopefully they will be useful for their listening practice.
Lovely. So we would start this with, what do these three pictures have in common? Is that true? I can't figure it out. are they in the Antarctic, which is the biggest desert in the world? And we have another picture of a desert, but I can't see the link. Leading into this TED Talk.
Mm-hmm. Yes. This is a TED Talk available on the website with the script there for you. And the video is about an extreme runner who shares his enthusiastic account of his record-breaking trek on foot to the South Pole. Okay, so we can see here a bit of the connection. Okay, the challenge, the South Pole. So there you go, some ideas for your for the pictures before.
TED is a wonderful resource, and many of the talks do also have tape scripts. I will probably mention this later, but I think tape scripts are an amazing resource for practicing listening. And what we said before, really exploiting texts as far as possible, or exploiting listenings. Follow up with the tape script. You can even use the tape script beforehand, get them practicing their skimming, their scanning. Give them 30 seconds with the tape script before they watch the video, get them to get an idea, then they can maybe predict what's going to happen. You could combine that with a visual support. Tape scripts are wonderful, and they're also a really nice way to see how our horrible listening tasks are constructed, getting them used to how we deal with distractors, how we chop up a text in the areas that we tend to focus on. A nice follow-up activity.
Yeah, sorry, just to say that there we use the script to create the task. Okay, we made it a gap fill activity, and for that we adapted slightly the script.
Always nice to get a little bit of use of English in there as well. A nice follow-up activity after watching and answering any questions.
Yeah, here we are going to ask students to work in pairs and imagine that they could interview Ray and try to come up with questions that they would like to ask him. So they can compare their questions and do the role play. One of the students is going to be the journalist or the interviewer, and the other student can be the character. So in this case, Ray.
Lovely. Another great resource is the BBC. There used to be lots of different, it used to be BBC Archives and BBC Radio, blah, blah, blah. I think now everything can be found on BBC Sounds. They have an enormous archive of interviews, which are great. There's also one of my favorite shows. It's been running for a radio show. It's been running for years and years, 30, 40 years. It's called Desert Island Discs. I've just popped it in the chat. And it's, I think you can, there's a 45-minute version and a 30-minute version. They get famous people on, and they have chosen 7 songs or records that they would take with them onto a desert island. They also have to choose 1 luxury and 1 book. They have the Bible, the complete works of Shakespeare, and they're allowed to choose 1 book, 1 luxury, and these 7 tracks. And it's a really, really nice interview format. It's interesting, it involves some music, and it's been running for decades. So there are a lot of, I think nearly all of those are available on the archives. But a really nice way to deal with interviews. Victoria?
Yeah, here what we have decided to do is to ask students to take notes. So you can see that the interview is quite long, more than 20 minutes. So we have taken a part of the interview. Before listening to the interview, we ask students some questions about Michael Caine in this case to see if they are familiar with him. And then they need to take notes while they are listening. Once the listening activity has finished, they are going to work in pairs and do the follow-up activity. They will have to compare their notes and try to reconstruct the conversation. Then student A will be the interviewer and student B will be the interviewee, and they will have to ask questions. Student A will ask the questions and student B will give answers that are similar but are not exactly the same. So student A will need to identify the aspects that are not accurate.
So student A has to ask the same questions, but student B giving, yes, similar but not exactly the same answers. And this is really good for their note-taking skills, but also obviously for their speaking, and it adds a bit of fun. You could have a competition to see who can get the most mistruths into the interview. And this is like a much higher level developed version of the 3 sentences game. Did you used to play that with your students, Victoria?
Yes.
It was a nice introduction. How does that work?
It works really well, and it's you ask students to tell you 3 sentences, and one of them needs to be false and the other one needs to be true. And the rest of the class need to see or try to identify the incorrect sentence.
Lovely. Another way, starting with a more traditional sort of speaking activity and leading out of that. Where did we take this from, Victoria? Where did you take this from?
Well, I created them for the teacher's newsletter that we produced for Spain and Portugal. So yeah, I took the photos from Pexels, as you can see, and Splash, and then they accompany the main questions, which are: have you ever considered taking a gap year? They need to justify their answer and think about the main benefits of having a gap year.
So you can have a nice 5-6 minute lead in with this, depending on the size of your groups. Great practice for the part 3 of the speaking, I think. Yes, part 3. And then how could we continue with it, Victoria?
Yes, then we are going to continue with a dictogloss. Okay, so students are going to take turns, and we're going to use the script for the last listening task of the listening paper. So we're going to give the students the script. Student A reads the speaker one's script at normal speed, while the rest of the class take notes. Students then work in pairs and compare their notes. This is all based on the script, and if necessary, they can listen again. As a whole group, later they reflect on the key aspects of the message. So in this case, what the speaker did during the gap year and the benefits they obtained, and also they can have a look at language.
Yeah, there's a really nice way of getting your students to create the material to then pull the last task out of. We know this is not an easy task. It's a really horrible task. Somebody mentioned earlier on Nikita, I think, because you've got 2 tasks to do, 1 input text that you only hear twice. Different students react differently to this. I would try and give students as much practice as possible. And I would normally tell my students to focus on one half for the first listening and the other half for the second listening. Again, it depends very much on your students. Some students are some students are very good at multitasking and keeping everything, but you've got a lot of input to keep in your mind at the same time. So I would always tell my students who are really hated this to focus on task 1 with the first recording, task 2 for the second recording. And yes, we are well aware that that it is the most difficult, but you can do this if you have a whole class. You've got 5 well, it depends how big your class is, but you get as many speakers as possible and put together the whole task and create your own task out of a very nice integrated skills lesson. And yes, Ivan, all of our exams and all of the different papers are created intentionally so that the tasks or the parts get more difficult as we go through. We have a lot of statistical analysis on how students perform in each task. And you'll notice sometimes when we go through a revision, which normally happen every 8 or 9 years, maybe a little bit longer, sometimes the order of tasks switches round. And that is because there is plenty of evidence to show that if more difficult task is followed by an easier task, the student's performance on the easier task is affected by doing a more difficult task first. So there is a lot of thought into thought and evidence and research put into the construction and the design of our exams, and that is intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we finished a little bit early. We never finish early, Victoria. What has happened?
We have to talk about the resources.
Oh, sorry, we do have to talk about the resources. It gives everyone time for a cup of tea. I am aware that I think Russia is one of only 2 countries that has a higher tea consumption per capita than the UK. Mm-hmm. So you will have time to go and get a cup of tea. Our website, Supporting Every Teacher, which I think has been live since about April. Mm-hmm. What can we find here, Victoria?
Lesson plans, activities, ideas to integrate skills, to adapt your material to students with different needs. So really a lot of resources there for you to check out.
And we also have, I'm going to come back on camera from the end. I know somebody requested camera earlier, but I kept getting warnings saying unstable connection. We didn't want to risk.
Yeah, so did I.
Wobbly situations over the last couple of weeks, and there's nothing worse than the chat box just going, woo, we can't see you. We also have, and this came up recently, oh, sorry, let me just get the right button, your new English classroom. More material available here for A2, B1, B2, but there is stuff up at C1 as well. This went live at the beginning of September, and all of the material thereon was developed over the summer, bearing online, face-to-face with social distancing, or hybrid teaching in mind. And there's a plethora of material available on there for you, ready to go, lesson plans, resources, materials. So please use it. Okay, we have socially distanced classroom, emotional support for learners, going back to the classroom, a huge amount of materials. So please use it. I hope today was interesting. Oh, sorry, Victoria.
Sorry, George. I was going to say that there are also assessment guides for writing, which are really, really useful. And there have been some webinars. And I think there is a new webinar next week about the teacher assessment guide. So please have a look at them.
I think that's on when is that? It's next week, isn't it? It's always on a Tuesday morning and Thursday afternoon. Mm-hmm. You should be able to find that on the website, and they're really great, those assessment guides for teachers and for students. Thank you all very much for listening to us. Use Read and Improve. If you're a student, use it. If you're a teacher, send your students there. And Write and Improve if you haven't already. It works from A1 up to C2+. Its strengths at the higher levels aren't communicative achievement, organization, but on a vocab and grammar, on a nitty-gritty language basis, it's a wonderful, wonderful tool. Okay. Thank you again for having us. It's always a pleasure traveling around the world. I was saying yesterday that COVID has meant that Victoria and I have been traveling everywhere, albeit virtually. Hopefully, one day we'll be invited to Russia. And that would be nice. Maybe not in the depths of winter. I don't know how cold it is there. Is it still cold, Julia? We were speaking to Julia yesterday. She said it's 5 degrees, which is quite cold.
Thank you, George, Victoria. Well, at the moment it's not very cold, but well, in winter it will be colder, I believe.
Yeah,
of course, we are waiting for you in Russia. Thanks a lot for your presentation today, and fingers crossed, very soon we'll be able to get back to normal, and we are waiting for you here with some offline events.
I had a friend at university. Yes, we do. I had a friend at university who was from Moscow, and we said, how cold does it get? He said, -40. And I said, what does that feel like? And he says, I don't know. I'm not stupid. You don't go outside. Thank you all very much for having us. Have a lovely weekend. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day and have a lovely weekend.
And you.
Bye-bye.
Dear friends, we have Now it's time to talk about psychological aspects of self-preparation for Cambridge English qualifications of higher levels. Use Katia Redkina, our presenter. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Just a second,
Here I am,
I'm uploading your slides.
Thank you very much.
Can you see your presentation?
Yeah, it's all
Great.
here. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get it.
So I can start then.
Yes.
Okay, great. So first of all, George and Victoria, thank you very much for your presentation. I actually found some nice, clever ideas that I'm going to use in my teaching. And as for the weather, I wanted to say that, well, we're not in the winter yet even. So +5, it's very good this time of the year. Well, anyway, hello, everyone. Yeah, hi, great to see you too. Great to see you. Because of this COVID, I haven't been anywhere for a long time, no conferences, nothing. So I missed that, so I'm glad to see everyone here. In case you, well, like maybe you don't know me, my name is Katia Redkina, or Ekaterina Redkina, and I am a sort of a two-in-one specialist, let's put it this way. I'm a psychologist and an English teacher. And I've been teaching English for about, let's say, 13 years. And my main and first education is psychological. And here I will be talking from the point of view of a psychology about high-level exams and about C1. For me, it doesn't make much difference whether we talk about C1 or C2, because high-level exams are quite special. And let's start with actually thinking together. What makes them so special, these high-level exams? What do you think? Any ideas? Please feel free to write something. Maybe you've taken these exams. Maybe you're planning to. Maybe you're preparing your students. Pressure of getting into university. That's true. Increased pressure and risks, exactly. Wide range of vocabulary, absolutely. Tension, difficult, yes, levels difficult. Timing, students' ambitions. I like that you mentioned that. I will be talking about ambitions. Stressful, for sure. Pools of materials, yes, endless, absolutely. High stake, risk exam. Series for self-esteem. Oh, so many, I can't even read this. Exactly, fear of failure. And you need to understand complex structures. Suffering from imposter syndrome. Oh, yes, yeah, we'll mention this as well. Absolutely, absolutely. And all high-level exams, when I was thinking about this, first of all, if we talk about lexes, they always come far beyond the common lexes, right? And it means that at some point, you are not talking about the words or actually grammar constructions that are enough for the survival. You're talking about something that makes your language more interesting, more beautiful. And I realized that this could be simply a trigger of sort of anxiety or difficulty when I was preparing my students for even lower B2 level. And even moving from B1 to B2, students were wondering why there are so many synonyms, why there are so many collocations to express the same thing. And when we move on to higher levels, the amount of language that you need, it's even more. And it's all about your sort of perseverance. It's all about your desire to learn more, because you can survive with let's say half of that or even less, right? It means that you put yourself into certain stressful conditions on purpose, and this is actually what motivates most of us, because we want to do this. And this is a very important point. I want you to remember this. Though it's challenging, we go there because we see how better our language can become and how many more opportunities it can bring, right? Because that's not only, very often it's not only for us that we take this exam. We do it because we kind of need it. What else? Because high level exams are so complicated and difficult and time-consuming, they require lots of skills from you. And it's not only about, skills that we use every day to plan maybe our day or something. These are skills that would be, again, level up. These are maybe elaborate study skills, how to learn so many words. These are elaborate time management skills, how to squeeze in these extra hours of studies or learning or teaching this into our usual schedule. I'm thinking more about us teachers being as students, when we prepare for exams. So how to squeeze it into our regular timetable. And obviously higher level exams require a lot of self-reflection. They require a lot of strategies of self-monitoring and thinking what I'm doing well, what I'm not doing well. And this is another, area and resource of stress and anxiety. And as you said, of course, they're challenging on their own. And all this makes high-level exams, C1 specifically, very difficult, whether we take it as students or we prepare for this, our students. So let's imagine now we are thinking about taking this exam. Maybe you've taken it before, fine. Now we are students. Let's think from this position. What is it in the exam for you then? What does it mean if you take this exam? What is it? Will you prove something to yourself? Will you get a better position? Will you just put, I don't know, the certificate on the wall? Or why? Challenge. Goal, ambition, good. To prove something to someone, maybe to yourself, maybe to your administration of your school. It's a challenge. More money, that's interesting. Cherish my ego, that's interesting. Prove I'm successful, self-confidence, boost your skills, career. Great, thank you. I see a lot of words like challenge. It is a challenge. Better career perspectives, better vision. Intrinsic motivation, good. I will mention this as well. So you're absolutely right. And I would say for every person, this exam will mean something different. And for every student that we teach, that will mean something different. The reasons are different, right? Yeah, I see you writing certificate, more confidence. So if we think about it, many people turn to exams, high-level exams, because there is a belief that if you have a certificate of higher level, it means something, right? And we start with C1, then we want to get C2. And this is absolutely understandable because, well, being non-native speakers, we are often compared with native speakers, and it's great that we can prove our knowledge, right? And there are many other beliefs connected with, high level of certificate and high level of language. They're very closely linked. Many people, as you said, actually do it because they're ambitious, and they do it for themselves because they want to prove something to themselves, or maybe to their colleagues. Maybe it's just time to develop. And teachers, from my experience, are people who study all the time. And taking an exam as a student could be another opportunity to study. So that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, exactly, like CPD, lifelong learning. And this would fit into being ambitious and wanting to study. That makes sense. As for expectations, usually advanced exams or high-level exams are closely connected with a lot of expectations. And this is good and bad at the same time. From the psychological point of view, high expectations motivate you, right? Because you are moving forward and you are pushing yourself, getting out of this famous comfort zone, and you are, achieving new things. However, expectations, if they're too high, they could be source of stress and anxiety. And these expectations could be yours, they could be internal. For example, you might be thinking that, and it's connected with beliefs, obviously, that if I don't get this high level exam, this C1, for example, I can't be teaching high levels. I'm not qualified enough. And this is where imposter syndrome comes from, that was mentioned earlier, because we create this high expectations that we initially can't meet, and we think that when we get the certificate, this is when we can start doing something. In this case, probably lowering the pressure of expectations could be a good idea. This is about internal expectations. As for external, a lot of expectations come from maybe the school you're working for, maybe, I don't know, the administration or the chair of the university. I can see this also. They expect you to take exam and to prove that, well, yes, I can be a good teacher. Many students come with a lot of expectations from parents. Let's say when parents want them to get this certificate because, well, I don't know, they want to prove the level. And a lot of expectations from the workplaces, right? From universities. So many expectations. Expectation here almost is this, well, almost equals to sort of pressure and anxiety. So I'm trying to sort of show where the stress of the exam comes from. It doesn't come out of nowhere, right? And finally, what makes exams stressful and difficult is the maybe money issues. When we invest into our development and we need to, there could be different options. Maybe you need to buy materials, maybe you need to pay for the exam itself, maybe you need to hire a teacher, right? Maybe if you are a teacher yourself and you decide that you are taking an exam, you're preparing for it, you might be saying no to some of your teaching experience, teaching practices. It means that you're losing some of your money and you sort of allocate this time to learning rather than teaching. These all questions, probably this is something to think about, right? At the very beginning, so that they do not come as surprise. Time issues, well, obviously, I mean, we know, like every teacher knows that developing language proficiency takes time, right? And coming from one level to another, it doesn't happen instantly. And you need to make it regular, and you need to have it not probably 5 minutes a day, it should be longer. So you also need to be able to do all other things you were doing before that. So fitting it in could be a challenge. And finally, lots of fears. Fear of failing, right? Fear of not getting the job you were looking for, not getting the, not maybe entering the university that was asking for this certificate, not proving something to yourself, not proving something to your colleague, to your boss. So all fears that we have, this is also something you need to think about. I don't know where on this path towards exam you are now. You're thinking about it, or you've started, or maybe you've done it already, or maybe you're teaching it. Anyway, thinking about fears is an important practice. We'll talk about it later, because actually I want to give some practical things, what to do, right, with all this. And what is more important is that apart from exam being so stressful, as we've just discussed, there are also other things, and some things happen before the exam, and the biggest part happens before the exam, but also there is something else after the exam. Well, as for before the exam stage, let's put it this way, there is a lot of stress on making the decision of, you know, okay, I need to take this exam, and this is the moment where the whole process starts, right? Exam itself is just one of the elements, and making like deciding that you will take it, how you will do it, what will it mean for you. This is a serious thing that maybe takes, should take some time, you know. Then obviously the hugest part would be exam preparation, and we'll talk about it quickly as well. Here there could be a lot of issues and a lot of doubts that people have. Am I doing it in the right way? Am I getting towards the result I need? If I teach it, am my students, are they getting to the results they need? And so on. There are so many doubts how we prepare ourselves or our students. And the last point is post-exam state. Because from my experience, when you leave the exam room, that's not the end of your worries, right? There is also a state when you actually worry when, how, what if. And all of this also takes a lot of energy. So altogether, I would say that the exam situation is very charged emotionally. And there is so much energy that it takes from us that obviously exams, I'm not talking about language now, psychologically speaking, high-level exams take a lot from us. And I mean, this is absolutely understandable. So you need to help yourself, and you need to kind of protect yourself from this energy drain, because how you're supposed to be studying and how you're supposed to be getting good results if there are so many things, you know, that apart from studies, things that are happening. So let's talk about this first. When you decide to take an exam, because I think that's important to mention. We always talk about preparation first, but I wanted to start even earlier. So I would think, let's say, if I decide to take an exam, and this is what I was doing last year, though it wasn't C1 exam, it was Delta Module 3 test, and I was thinking, and I tried to answer these questions. So why do I need it? So please answer these questions for yourself, or you can ask these questions to your students. So why do I need it? Do I need it for my self? Do I need it because someone else wants me to take it? Am I challenging myself because I wanted to, or because I'm trying to prove something to someone? So what exactly am I proving here? Because as you can understand, internal, intrinsic motivation, this is something that drives you. External motivation, or doing something for someone, can be less, how to say, less helpful. And even if you do it for the sake of job, or for the sake of studies, or for some kind of external reasons, it's very important to understand internally, deep inside, why you're doing this. Why do you need it? And maybe you need to honestly answer this question. Do you really want it? Is it really what you need now? Can it wait, or should you start now? And if you decide, this is the first step to understanding, yes, this is my motivation, and I will try to keep it. Also, I like this fourth question here. Does the idea motivate me? I mean, the idea of exam, of taking an exam, does it inspire me? You know, does it sparkle me in any way? Will I do these studies with love and pleasure and passion, or it's like a huge burden and I don't know, responsibility? And imagine you start preparation really before the exam. So if it drives you, that's one state, right? It's like a flow, it goes. If it sounds from the very beginning like something very challenging, maybe you should try to think what makes it so difficult for you. So when you ask these questions and answer, I would go to the second step of decision making, actually thinking, okay, now I want it, I need it, I love the idea, can I actually do it? And I would think about planning it even beforehand. So would I do it myself or with a teacher? Statistics shows that preparation for high levels with a teacher is usually more effective, right? So maybe you need to, do you have a teacher already? Have you found the teacher? Do you have enough resources of time, money? Do you have the materials? If not, where you're going to have them from, right? I think this is all important, and it's better to have it taken care of before you start rather than when you're already in the middle of preparation and you don't have time for this, and then if you're on the course, you will be falling behind, you know, and then you will have to catch up, and it's all stressful. You can avoid all that stresses just by being mentally, and let's put it, well, physically in a way prepared, right? Because you've planned it. What else you would probably be thinking here? Any preparation for exam takes a lot of time, which means that you will be trying to change your timetable. You will try, as I mentioned earlier, to fit it into your timetable, and your daily routines will change. Maybe you had, I don't know, one day during the week off. Let's say you had a Tuesday off. Now, probably it's going to be dedicated to exam preparation. And it might be, how to say, not so pleasant, right? Because, well, you might be even procrastinating and thinking, why should I do that? I mean, you understand me, right? This, even if you want something, you might be reluctant to start doing it because you need to change something in your life, in your routine. Well, think about it beforehand. Think when you're going to study, at what time, for how long, plan it. You don't have to stick 100%, but when you, let's say, have some plan, it's always easier to start doing rather than have it somewhere very, you know, vague, in a very vague way. Again, do you have a support system? Do you have experts to address to? Where would you go? Maybe collect websites that you would be using. Collect, I don't know, materials, where you're going to watch videos, where you're going to read, how you're going to write, and so on. And actually previous lectures today, right, webinars already gave you a lot. So whether you're preparing yourself as a student or you were teaching, create this pool of materials that you can use, and that's already a big step for preparation. And what I've mentioned, it's just step number one, right? You decide, okay, I'm going to take this exam. What happens next? And many people mentioned that, is that we've decided, maybe we've even started a course, but then we start procrastinating. Surprisingly, right? Because, well, any ideas why this is happening? Seems like, well, I've decided I should be doing something, right? Why I'm not doing it? Just any ideas? Or we don't have any procrastinators here? Well, that's good, maybe, that we don't have them. Fears, too much load, we're tired, A lot of time before the exam. Yes, thank you for mentioning this. I'll be talking about this. Laziness, fear of bad results, motivation falls, how much, I spent too much energy on deciding. That's fair enough. Laziness again. Oh, it's like an ocean. Yes, good metaphor. It's like so big that you don't know like how to start, right? Exhaustion already. You haven't even started yet. Exactly. A lot of distractors. Yeah, Instagram can be much more interesting than preparation for the exam, right? Even if you want it. Waste of time. As soon as this is over, something else is coming. Yeah, perfectionists and often don't do anything because they want to do it the best way. If they can't do it the best way, they don't do. Lack of planning. Great. Thank you. Okay, what I thought of, first of all, procrastination, it's a well-known concept, right? And we often explain it by being lazy or something like this. Well, actually, lazy, it's also just a word. I don't believe in lazy. I believe in some hidden unconscious reasons why we don't do something. And as many people said, fears actually could be the reason of procrastinating. You're so afraid that you can't even start. You don't know how to start because it's so big, and so on. There are so many things. So I've tried to group them, and I thought of 5 issues, and I'm sure there are more, but let's quickly talk about these. First, it's difficult to find time, and it looks like there is always something more important. And this could be really important things. I'm not talking even about Instagram. It could be your other job, some, I don't know, home issues, some family issues, and they're important. And in your priority list, in your hierarchy, exam, for some reason, is somewhere at the end, right? Second, and someone mentioned this, and thank you for this, the exam seems very distant. Oh, like I have so much time, and I have more than enough time. Well, I'll start soon, you know. This is postponing the action because it seems far away, and this is absolutely true, because when you start a year before, oh, yeah, this is so long. I can do so many things. I'll be brilliant by the end of the year. We all know brilliant doesn't happen in an instant. Brilliant is the result of small things you do, and the earlier you start, probably the better you become, right? For some people, the task of exam preparation can be too big, almost unachievable, because it's maybe too difficult or unclear, or it's just too much, you know, too much. Another problem that people notice is that when you're already preparing, it seems that there is no progress at all. And if there is no progress, your motivation goes down and you don't know what to do with that, right? And obviously, exam, it's thinking about exam. It immediately triggers your stresses, your doubts. Should I? Maybe I shouldn't. What if I didn't? And all of that. So what can be done? And I decided to think about this as if some small voice in our head is saying this. So let's imagine we are talking to our small voice in our head, and it says, I can't find time for it. You know, seriously, I just can't. I thought I would have time, but I don't have it. So what can be done? We remember that we've already made this decision that we're taking this exam, right? So we've done this. If you can't find time, first of all, I'm pretty sure that it's the same as eating habits or going to the gym or any other habit. It could be developed, and it takes time. How you can help yourself? You can create some study routines or habits. So for example, when I study, for me, preparation for some serious tests, exams, any study of that kind, I do it only at my desk. I can't do it at the kitchen table or in bed or something like this. So I need my desk. I need my favorite cup, usually tea or coffee, depending on the time of the day. Maybe I will have some cozy, you know, sweater wearing or something. So I'm creating this associations of study and something that makes me comfortable. And because I do it all the time, your brain and your mind prepares for that. And this is how you can, tune yourself into studying. Second, find a study buddy, so-called, right? Find a person who would be maybe pushing you or maybe checking, well, how is it going? How is your progress? You know, I have done this and that. What about you? Or you can even have a competition. Depends on how you prefer, right? You can decide, okay, shall we do this together? And by the end of December, let's do one mock test. Or by the end of December, let's something. So teamwork is why teamworks are so good, because people support each other. It's like support group. And later there will be a slide with motivation, actually. I should have maybe put it here, but motivation goes always like this. It's never only up, and it's never stable. You will have your ups and downs, and if you are alone, you will have to deal with this on your own. If you have a person who is doing something similar, then yeah, community, exactly. If you have a person who is doing something similar, in your downs, maybe he will be in his up stage of motivation, and this is where he can pull you up, you know, and help you with this. And the opposite. Sometimes both of you will be demotivated. Yes, it happens. Sometimes both of you will be on the track. Well, and the same happens with our students in class, right? And the last point here, I would mention so-called closed lists. So we all know what sort of tracking progress and having lists, like bullet points, and then marking the points that you've done. Closed lists, these are lists in which you put only the things you are actually going to do. No more, no less. So for example, you know that you need to do lots of things. You need to watch a video here. You need to read a newspaper article there. You need to do lots of exercises and this and this and this and that. And it's a mess. It's like, as someone mentioned, ocean of, you know, tasks and things you need to do. Choose those that you will be able to do today or within a week. Write them down. This is your closed list, and you're doing only this. You are like ticking them out, and yes, I've done this, good for me. That's it. When you finish with this closed list, you write another one from that big pile that seemed unapproachable. Psychologically speaking, these closed lists give us more satisfaction than open lists, because in the open list, you start blaming yourself for not finishing something. Here, you think, oh, I'm good actually. I planned 5 points, 5 things, and I've done them. So you are praising more than blaming. Okay, another small voice in your head might be saying, well, it's too much, right? It's too much for me. And this one, this is connected with time management also. And actually this idea of eating an elephant comes from time management. I read it, I think, when I was even at university. So imagine you need to eat an elephant. An exam is definitely an elephant. It's not a mouse, right? It's a huge elephant, or maybe a dinosaur. If you need to eat it, imagine you're eating an elephant. How would you eat it? Well, definitely not in one bite. You will need to cut it into small portions, small steaks and burgers and whatever, right? And you can really illustrate this exam as an elephant. Draw it down, create the one for yourself or for your students, cut it into bits and pieces, and decide what each bit is, and even better if you track or connect it with some time or months. Let's say left leg, that would be, I don't know, mock sample test number 1, and I will do it by the end of November, for example. I don't know. You can play with it, but it helps you to visualize something very big and to understand that it's actually manageable, right? Cut it and eat it. Yeah, we're hunter-gatherers, yes. You can do the same with any big task. Okay, another small voice, well, sounds weird, but still, might be saying that you can't do it because you're not clever. Some people might be even saying, oh, I'm stupid, I don't understand it, this is, you know, too much. You can start thinking in this way. What other challenging things have you succeeded in? I mean, I'm pretty sure that exam is not the first challenge, right? Have you done anything else, maybe not as big as an exam, or maybe even bigger than an exam? Have you succeeded? Something that you're proud of, something you've actually started and it seemed also huge and impossible to achieve, but you managed. Think, praise yourself, collect all these examples of big and small successes. And you can do it for yourself, or again, for your students, together if you see that they are losing motivation. And when you sort of praise yourself, you get an idea, wow, I'm not that bad, really. Oh, well, maybe I can do it, right? When you prepare for the exam, we tend to overthink the result. We prepare because we need to pass an exam, right? It's all about passing or failing. Stop thinking about this. First of all, it's too far away from now. Second of all, it's not how to say, it's not a sprint, right? It's more a marathon, and it's a long, difficult process. And why not to look at it as something, well, enjoyable in a way, right? Because you chose to do it, and also something where you learn, because you started it for the sake of learning also. Yes, you need the certificate, probably you want it, but people who start C1 or higher, C2 exam preparation, they don't do it just, oh, I need a certificate, because they want to develop, right? So enjoy the process, enjoy the language, enjoy your learning. And finally, when you start blaming yourself or criticizing and thinking that I'm not that clever, I'm worthless, and so on, you might be thinking, actually, do you have enough mental or physical resources now? Maybe you are so tired already, you are drained, then there is no energy, and it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Yesterday, I had a day off. Actually, that's something maybe I shouldn't say publicly, but yesterday I had a day off, and I was so exhausted that instead of doing the things I need to do for the next week, I simply relaxed. I went for a walk, I took a bath, I took care of myself, and today I feel much better than yesterday. So the point is not to push yourself into something you can't handle. The thing is to take care of yourself so that you have energy to invest into whatever you need, exam in our case, right? Now, as for study skills and strategies, obviously, as we mentioned earlier, to prepare for an exam, you need to develop not only study routines, early morning, late evening, or whatever. You need to think of all the best skills and strategies you have, how you can ease your learning, how you can help yourself, right? So you might start with identifying your personal learning style, and starting from there thinking, okay, what's the best way for me to learn? Okay, this way. Then I will be doing this to help me. If you're teaching and preparing students for exam, you can discuss with them, right? What is the best way for them? How do they prefer learning words, for example? Would it be, I don't know, writing them down manually in a notebook? Would it be Quizlet? Would it be maybe cards like we had, you know, many years ago? Piles of cards that you manually swap. It's also a great method. I like cards. I was learning Spanish with lots of cards, and I was cutting them, and I was, you know, I had a box for them. Why not? If it helps, let it be. If you need stickers all over the your flat, fine, right? And this is your responsibility now. Or if you're teaching, this is probably your responsibility to help your students to figure this out. And because we're talking about high levels, we're talking about high level of, well, self-awareness, and this is what should be discussed, right? We're not talking about younger learners who have no idea how they learn. Usually at this age and stage, we know. And generally speaking, whatever you do as exam preparation, it's not about automaticity at high levels, right? We're aiming for flexibility. So be flexible actually in everything, in your language, in your study skills, in your learning strategies, in your time management skills. Generally, I would think flexibility is the best thing here, because it helps us not to burn out on this long way. Another people might be thinking, oh, well, I have plenty of time, right? It's so far away. It's fine. I will manage. And I am one of those, I think, because when I have a lot of time, I can't plan what I do properly. I usually allocate it for the late, and then I'm in a rush. It's not the best strategy, especially with something that requires constant, constant studies. When you're doing a small task that could be done in one go, okay, maybe last minute would be even nicer because you are not getting distracted, you sit and do it. But exam, it's not something you can do in one go, right? It's about this elephant. It can't be eaten in one bite. So here, what you can do, if you are one of those people who think, oh, I'm fine, I still have plenty of time, you can set personal due dates. So something for a week, something for this month, something by the end of the next month. And it's absolutely fine if you don't follow these deadlines. But the brain, human brain, works in such a way that if we know what we want to reach short term, it's better. And it means that we focus on this much better. If your only goal is exam, which will happen in 9 months, your brain gets very relaxed, and you need to push yourself, into doing this. If you have more short-term goals, that's much easier to concentrate. So this would be my strategy. And another maybe problem, an issue that we face here is that some people don't see any progress. You study, you learn, and it seems like no progress at all. And this is also fine, I guess, because we all know that there could be a plateau, right? When it seems like you're not going up, but maybe you're not even going down. You're somewhere, but it's natural, and plateaus are necessary to move forward, right? Plateau means that you're stable, so they're actually good. However, if you need to see the progress, what can you do? Instead of, again, blaming yourself for not doing anything or for not succeeding, not progressing, you can ask for feedback. Again, your peers, your colleagues, your teacher, if you are in a group. And again, if we are talking about the teacher now, give this feedback to your learners, right? So they know that they are progressing and how they're moving along this long way. Obviously, do the mock tests because, well, that's kind of obvious, right? Track your achievements in any way. When I was preparing for take any exam in my life, I would be writing a list of things I want to do, and I will be somehow crossing them out or highlighting or something, so I see that, oh, I've done this, and then this, and then this. For example, even if you need to do like 10 mock tests, okay, finishing each of these mock tests, or even a part of a mock test, somehow mark it for yourself, write it down, make it visual. So again, your brain sees that, well, there is a positive feedback, right? Something is moving forward. And track your achievements. Set achievable goals and objectives. This is about, I see some people writing SMART methods, writing goals in this SMART approach. So goals should be achievable, measurable, timed, and I'm pretty sure you know about this. So don't try to set a goal that is so big, because we're all ambitious, right? I know this, I'm ambitious myself, but because of this, we have high expectations, we set high goals that are not achievable from the very beginning. What happens? We don't do it, and then we get upset. What's the whole point, right? And obviously, to see the progress, you will need assessment criteria. So you need to see not just I'm moving to that direction, or I'm not, how I'm moving there, what is changing, how my writing 2 months ago was different from my writing now. Create portfolios for yourself or for your students, right? Track the progress in any possible way. Well, and I think this would be the last small voice talking. And this one, I will fail. That's a fear of failure. First of all, I should say that fears are good, and if you're afraid of something, it actually means that this is the area of your development. Usually we are not afraid of something we are good at already, which means you've already reached it. High-level exams, this is about ambition, as we know, and if you are getting towards something that you're not good at yet, of course, it's going to go together with a fear. That's obvious. And also fears come from the unknown. When you do not exactly know maybe details about the exam, maybe you don't know your strengths or weaknesses. So you can start from there and see, okay, actually I'm good at this, but I'm not good at this and that, and this is what I'm going to work on. And from finding these unknown areas, you make them conscious. This is the plan. This is where the plan comes in and you develop it. And if you're afraid, well, just accept it. Yes, I'm afraid to fail. Well, that's normal. And then there is a psychological exercise. You ask yourself, what will happen if you fail? So what will happen if you fail? Can someone please write it down in a chat? Imagine you're preparing for an exam. What will happen then? And I will look in some answers here. Recording scores, that's a good idea, right? Nothing will happen. That's interesting. Yeah, nothing. Why to worry then, right? I will hate myself. I will be heartbroken, disappointed. I will try again. I will retake it. Nothing awful, nothing terrible. We'll get, goals will be postponed. I feel like a loser. I understand completely. So what you can do, and I saw it at one psychological training. So for example, if I fail, I will be heartbroken. Okay, so feel it. You'll be heartbroken. You'll be heartbroken for a week, for 2, for 3, for how long? Okay, for how long, no matter how long you need it, you are heartbroken. What is next? Maybe you'll be sad. Okay, now you're sad. You are sad for a day, for 2, for 3, for a week. What happens next? You continue working. Maybe you still remember about exam. You have some sad kind of ideas here. Okay, you remember, you are sad for a day or 2 or 3. What will happen? Nothing, actually nothing bad, nothing horrible will happen. And you will sort of survive it, right? We tend to think too much, and we tend to charge this idea of failure too much. It's like, oh, if I fail, that's the end of the world. No, it's not. Play it out in your mind. Play the worst scenario. Maybe you don't even get the job you were thinking of. Maybe you don't get the position, you don't enter university. Yes, it will be horrible, but what will happen next after that? You will still move on, you know? For me, it worked. It worked with some serious fears. So try it if you really feel frightened, you know, about failing. Students may drop out of university. Of course, I mean, I'm not, I'm not saying this is something we shouldn't worry about, but worrying about it is not helping us. What we can do is to develop this idea to the extreme and see what will happen. And you will see that nothing actually, nothing that can be changed will happen. It's not the end of the world. Yes, it's bad, it's really bad, but then it will be better, and then you will get out of it. That's the whole point, you see? It's just releases tension. Fears give you too much tension. The whole point, it's not, we're not trying to be, we don't try to say we don't care. We try to lower the anxiety, that's it. So motivational ups and downs, I mentioned this earlier. Don't expect that your way or your student's way to exam will be just only up. It will be up and down, and you can tell this to your students, and you can notice that. If you see that it's going down, you can ask and maybe suggest some help, offer some help, right? And ask, what can I do? Can I help you somehow? What's going on? Are you bored? Does it seem difficult? What's happening, right? And another very important thing is what you need to know, and it's for preparation and also for exam. And we are slowly finishing here. There is such a phenomenon called, well, as optimum of motivation. It means that if motivation is low, it's not good, and we all know this, right? We know that if we are not motivated enough, or if students are not motivated enough, then it's kind of difficult to proceed. That's obvious. What is not always obvious is that if motivation is too high, it stops motivating in a healthy way, and it gets together with the stress and anxiety. So high motivation, and again, there's been research that prove that high motivation, extremely high, like too much, at the exam especially, leads to mistakes, more mistakes, and lower results. So if you come to an exam in this overly excited state, thinking, oh, this is it, I need to do it, everything or nothing, right? This one can be might have a negative effect. That's my point. And also, if you look at these two graphs, blue and red, this actually shows how level of motivation depends on the difficulty of the task. Because the difficult tasks already are charged, and we discussed this at the beginning, remember, like the batteries, we are charged, the exam is charged. You don't get to be motivated yourself. Exam already gives you this. With less difficult, less interesting tasks, the task itself is, well, it's not so charged, then your motivation should be higher. So this is where the balance comes in. If it's too much, then, as I said, more mistakes, more stress, more anxiety. So be careful here. And so what can we do to ourselves? Take care. That's what I said earlier. Just ask yourself, or ask your students, again, if you're teaching this, are they taking enough care of their mental and physical health? Because any long-term goal, any big challenge requires energy. This energy should come from somewhere, right? It doesn't come out of nowhere. You can even think about your eating habits, your sleeping habits. Are you having enough free time to do something else? Demotivation, or these ups and downs of motivation, often come because you feel miserable, because you either work or you study and there is no life, right? So maybe finding more time for yourself, taking care of yourself, or helping your students take care of yourselves. This could be an answer. And two more tips. This 20/80/20 rule, 80/20 rule. So I think it's also quite obvious, but it's a good one. Put in a few hours of serious, concentrated study without distractions, focusing on your workload, and then leave time to yourself. So we decide, okay, I will do this for 1 hour. I know there is something very interesting on Instagram going on. I know that. But I will do this just for 1 hour, and I will put a timer on my maybe mobile phone, or I will put a timer online. After 1 hour, I am absolutely, I will have all the right to do something else, what I want. Instagram, Facebook, cooking, eating, I don't know, whatever. Yes, Pomodoro technique, that's exactly what it is. When you set a timer, after the timer beeps, there is a huge splash of tomatoes over your screen, and this is the moment when you can say, okay, off I go and have some rest. And the second point is multitasking. Generally, of course, it might be very individual. Many people like multitasking, but multitasking generally has been found to have negative effect on academic performance. And focusing on one thing can give you better results than doing a bit of this, switching. And now, because we are all living in the era of digital technology, where you have notifications from, I don't know, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, email, Telegram, Viber, I don't know what else you're using. This switching thing, this is always what we're doing. And psychologists now notice that people have more difficulty focusing on one thing. There is no problem switching. So people who say that, oh, I switch easily, I'm multitasking, I do this, then this, then this, kind of yes, but I'm not sure that they focus well enough and deep enough on the task itself. So I would be very careful with this multitasking and switching, and I would focus probably more on something we're working on, well, exam. This is it from me. If you have questions, feel free to ask. We still have like a few minutes. And if you want to find me online, this is my email and my Instagram. Thank you. Yes, thank you, everyone. I was still hoping for some questions, but if no questions, I would be thinking that we've covered everything.
Thank you, Ekaterina. Fantastic presentation and real useful advice and motivation. I can see so many comments in the chat box.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Great. Okay,
Yeah.
dear friends, if there are any questions, please ask them in the chat box or in the questions section.
Mm-hmm. I would probably say last thing that let's take it maybe slow, right? And let's sort of take care of our, take care of ourselves, of our students on this long way. Pushing never gonna work, you know, taking care and this non-critical, not judgmental approach to ourselves, to our students, this is probably the key to success, because as we know, C1 and high-level exams, they are very challenging, right? So, and well, good luck to everyone who is actually on this long way, right? Mm-hmm. I don't see any questions yet. I don't know. Maybe I'm... What to do if a teacher has affected... Just a second. What to do if a teacher has affected students' motivation? Could you please maybe explain it a little bit? I'm not sure I understand. Well, it's generally good if a teacher can somehow influence students' motivation. Or you mean in a negative way? Probably in a negative way. Well, because we're not talking about young learners, I would say a nice grown-up conversation here would probably do the best. And you can say that, you know, guys, we all get upset and demotivated and doubtful sometimes. So I'm sorry if I kind of demotivated you. And I'm pretty sure that what we're doing is very important and we can manage. And I can understand if you feel down. Well, I fell down myself, sorry. Well, but I'm back on track. Let's continue. Well, something like this, if I understood the question correctly. Yeah, in a negative way. Yeah, I guess I've mentioned this. Too many tasks. Recordings. I don't know. This is no question to me. The question, there are so many materials, how not to get carried away, just collect all of them instead of using. Okay, and that's what I do. I like collecting materials. Well, but for me, it's also fighting with my fears, because if I know I need to study lots of things, but I don't know where exactly these things are, for me, it's a point of anxiety, you know, source of anxiety. When I collect, and I know, okay, I have 5 websites for listening and 10 websites for reading and then something else. Then I limit it to this. I have it in my file or somewhere saved, and then I choose from this. For me, the biggest stress comes from necessity to look for something. So first I look for this, save it, and then search there. And if I don't cover all these resources, I'm actually fine then. I don't think I need that. You collect resources just to make your life easier, not to search for them every time. So imagine that you were saving your future time. If you can't cover all of them, well, it's absolutely normal. It's absolutely fine, I think. Well, some people might have a tracker, like I will use this and this and this and that. But for me, deeper study of material is much better than just superficial and, I mean, take 5 websites or 5 newspapers, study them thoroughly rather than read 50 or watch 50 things very, superficially. That would be my strategy. Are there any optimum number of resources? No, I don't think so. I think this is where you're comfortable. You should be in the area where you're comfortable. Well, and it should be obviously some advice from specialists. I mean, if you're using one course book, well, that's probably not enough, right? So, but if you're using 5 different vocabulary study books, well, there is very little chance you will be able to cover that. So it should be, again, achievable and realistic, right? And again, probably last thing about materials. High-level exams, let's say if we take preliminary B1 and everything that is higher, especially like C1, C2, what is the main difference? For B1 and low exams, you can find a list of words online that is called a vocabulary list for exam. And this is kind of a minimum guide, like minimum list of words that you need to cover for the exam. Starting even from B2, there is no such a list because there are so many synonyms, collocations, colligations, chunks. There is no way you can study all of them, learn all of them. And we're talking about B2 level. And if we talk about C1, obviously you will not learn everything, right? So I would say follow the recommended material for exam preparation because they guide you in all this pool of words and constructions. Start from there. If you have more time and energy, well, start reading more, watching more, and adding more words. Yes. Well, 2, 4, I don't know. I would probably go with 6, 7 as for me. Useful sites for getting ready for exams. I think this is exactly what 2 previous talks were about. So this is not exactly my area of expertise now. I'm more as a psychologist here, I'm sorry. How to fight anxiety when it comes to speaking part. Oh, well, that's probably not a question to answer. Well, I would first look at probably the sources of anxiety, what makes you anxious. It's not just, oh, everything. No, it's always something. Maybe the paperwork frightens you. Maybe you are afraid to show that you are not good enough. Maybe you're afraid of making mistakes. So what is where anxiety comes from? And then work with that. Maybe, I don't know, you are not exactly even sure what is happening at the exam. Then watch videos of exams, the real exams, right? There are lots of on YouTube channel, Cambridge YouTube channel. Watch those and you will get an idea. So I would start with thinking, why am I worried? What am I worried about? And also preparing for speaking part mentally could be the same as preparing for a public speech. Everyone is afraid to speak publicly because we feel very vulnerable, right? So what people do? Some people do some dance to release pressure. Some people do some breathing. Some people meditate. So do something that will calm you down. Go into the room and tell yourself that, well, it's only 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I'm all done and I can manage that. I've managed even harder things in my life, something like this. Okay, book for motivation. Oh, well, there is no one book, honestly, because there are so many things. And again, motivation for students, teachers, that would be, what's his name? Dornay, I guess. That's Zoltan Dornay would be the classical for motivation for students and teaching area. if we talk about motivation in general, well, there are so many books on psychology and motivation. I can't come up with any authors now, sorry. Even some popular books on motivation can do you good, actually. You can start with reading about extrinsic, intrinsic motivation, these things. I recommend a book for motivation. For strategies, well, there is a book, Kim Cortrell, I guess. Oh, I can't remember exactly the name. It's called Study Skills. Yeah, this is for study strategies. This one could be a good one. Yeah, study skills, it's called. There are many, again, books on study skills, study strategies. You can apply this. Can I spell the name? This is a good question. Let me quickly. I will try to find it. Just a second. Something like Cottrell, or sorry, I don't think I can. Well, as for study skills, again, I don't have any favorite book, honestly. There are lots of them available, and well, one is Essential Study Skills. This is Sarah Simpson. Maybe you can try this one. Sarah Simpson, Essential Study Skills. That's the only thing that comes to my mind quickly. Yeah, Coursera, exactly, courses on motivation. Let me see. Yes, Stella Cottrell, exactly, thank you. Stella Cottrell. Double T, double L. C-O-T-T-R-E-L-L. Yes, this is Study Skills Handbook. Okay, well, I would love to talk to you more, but I think we should be slowly finishing because it's time. And is it okay to fail? Yes, absolutely. I think it's absolutely fine to fail. My personal story of failure, I failed Delta Module 1. First time I failed it. I was the only one, I think, in our group of 15 people. And I thought I was the one who studied most. And I failed, and I think this is because I was too worried, and this is like about extreme motivation. I couldn't breathe properly. I was so anxious to get good results. I was so thinking about it that I actually failed. Yes, it was tough, but I survived. I took it again, and I passed it. So it's absolutely fine. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Yes, you gave me a lot of inspiration too when I saw people answering. This is always good. Nice reaction. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening, okay? Have a nice weekend. It's Friday evening, after all. And, well, good luck with your exam preparation in any way and exam teaching, okay? That's it. Thank you very much.
Once again, thank you, Ekaterina. And of course, I would like to thank all the participants. So it was a great webinar, 3 hours of very effective work. Thank you to all our presenters. And I'd like to remind you that the webinar recording and your certificate of attendance will be sent to you next week. First of all, we need to prepare the recording and to convert it. And after, on Monday, I think we will send you a newsletter, an email with all the materials. Yes, thank you, Anastasia. 3 hours like one. Yes, really great advice from our specialists, experts from Cambridge Assessment English from different countries. Claire is based in Germany, George and Victoria are in Spain, Ekaterina is in Moscow. Great team and fantastic event. Good luck with your exams. And thank you for sharing stories and posts on social media from our events. That's really great. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day and enjoy your weekend.